I think the most impressive work in cities is not necessarily one place, but it's a fractal combination of lots of initiatives. But I think the ones that I find most productive start with places like Curitiba, Brazil, where the fundamental protocol in the city is how do we love our children. That's it. You start with that. And, you know, is it loving your children to leave places looking like this? Would you do this at home? And if you look at what they did, for example, they couldn't get the garbage out of the favelas. So the mayor said, well, we can't get trucks in there, and these people need sanitation. So if you bring out all your stuff and put it in the right bins, we're going to pay you with mobility. That's what we can give you. So they built a factory with Volvo. Now they have the finest urban mobility system in the world, and everybody can go around. When they got to food, they said, don't build in the floodplains because you could get flooded. We turn these into urban gardens, and we make organic food, and if you have no job, you can get a free bus ride to the gardens, work there for the day, growing organic food, and take home all the food your family could need so your children will have safe, healthy nutrition. No cost to the city. When it was time to have a library, instead of building a mausoleum for books downtown, they decided to build little libraries within 12 minutes of each child. When they got there, they got access to the World Wide Web. This is a way of thinking. This is a way of being. And when you work your way out from the children, you'll understand what this sustainability stuff's about. And I think that from the regulatory perspective, the government can show the benchmarking of success from around the world and say these are the kinds of things we want to replicate ourselves. And you can show the examples so you're not just sticks. What we need are governments that understand the concept of carrots big enough to use as sticks. So how do we attract these companies you're talking about with something so beautiful you can knock them on the side of the head, say, smell the coffee. So one of the things we're doing now, for example, the pension funds and the sovereign funds that invest out there are marshaling, we got about $7 billion identified, to take on the brownfields of America, which have collapsed in value. And if we can get the utilities to get 20-year contracts on solar power, which is peaking power, which you use a lot of, hello. And if you can deploy that with your local citizens in an economic way, which you can, we can produce right now, right here, about an 8.5% return for all your citizens if they want to invest. And after Wall Street socialized risk instead of leaving it in the private hands for a bomb, now that we don't have our retirement funds, wouldn't it be interesting if a municipal bond can return 4+% as they're tax-free? What about a solar fund in Phoenix that returned about 8% based on utility contracts that are for services we know we need, like electricity? Hello? So I think we use the tools of commerce and the intelligence of governance, and we love those children, but not to death. We love them into life. We get the city alive. We get to work with the next century instead of all this detritus of the last one.